Hello there, it's Miss Jones from Sew with Miss Jones. Today I'm going to do a video with the hashtag Friday Sews Get to Know You. Maybe I have that backward. Yeah, I think I do. It's Get to Know You Friday Sews. Okay, so the first question is, who are you? My name is Vicki, but I go by Miss Jones most of the time because I'm a middle school teacher, so that's what lots of people call me, and that's what my channel is, Sew with Miss Jones. Where am I from? Well, I'm from this town called Pacific, Missouri, which is about 30 miles southwest of St. Louis. I grew up there, lived there all my life until, well, not all my life because I moved away a few times, but most of my life, Pacific, Missouri. Oh, about 9 years ago, I moved to Baldwin, Missouri, which is a suburb of St. Louis in West County, and I did that because it was a whole lot closer to the school that I teach at. So now, instead of a 45-minute drive to school, it's more like 15, which is really much, much better. So how long have I been sewing? Forever. That's what I always tell my students. I've been sewing forever. I started doing hand stuff, including some hand stitching, but also embroidery, Swedish weaving. I never did really get into needlepoint, lots of embroidery kinds of things. I did drawn work. I have done like white work before, cut work. These were all things that my great-grandmother did, and I hung around with her a lot when I was growing up. And some of those also my grandma also did, and so she just lived around the corner from us, so I hung out with her a lot. But I've been sewing for most of my life, and I started teaching sewing about 25 years ago, and I do teach in a middle school. So what are my machines? Boy, this is a list. My main machine is a Baby Lock Rachel. I got that when my school district changed from the Berninas that we had before to these other machines, and I wanted to be able to work on the same kind of machine at home so I could figure out how to teach certain kinds of things. I also have my first sewing machine. It's a compact Kenmore that I got right after I graduated from high school so I could take that with me to college. I have an Elna Quilter's Dream, which I got in the mid-1990s, and I like it a lot, and it was my main machine until I got the Baby Lock. I have a Juki 2010Q, which is a semi-industrial sewing machine, and it only does straight stitches, so it's a workhorse, but it only does straight stitches. I have a Brother 1034D serger. I have a vintage Singer serger, which also is a workhorse. Everything is metal. Why do I have two sergers? Well, one has black thread in it, one has white thread in it. No, that's not really why. I was going to do this thing last spring at school, and I wanted to have a couple of sergers for this like open sewing thing that I was going to do on Saturdays, and of course then the COVID hit us, so I never did get to do that. Let's see, I also have a Brother 2340CV cover stitch machine. I have a Brother 770 embroidery machine, and my absolute love is my 1913 Singer hand crank portable sewing machine. I absolutely love her, and she works. She's a little dirty, and that's one of my goals to get done this year, is to get her all cleaned up so that I can actually sew with her. But yeah, she is an amazing gal. am I self-taught or have I taken formal classes? Well, I did take 3 years of home economics in high school. They don't call it that anymore. I also have a BS in clothing and textiles education from the University of Missouri in Columbia. Go Mizzou. And then I have been doing a lot of reading and self-teaching since I was in college. And I hope that I keep learning more and more about sewing and clothing history and all that other kind of stuff. Knits or wovens? Oh my goodness. I love to wear knits. I love to sew wovens. Knits are too persnickety, and I don't think they're a good fabric for people who are just getting started because they don't behave very well. Whereas a nice, tightly woven fabric, they will do what you want them to do, if you know what you want them to do. So Big Four or indie patterns? Well, when I was growing up, Big Four was all we had, so there wasn't a whole lot of choice. But now I really prefer indie patterns. I started getting into them a few years ago when I started doing more knit sewing. Again, not my fave, but I have done it. And especially now, since I am more into historical dress and history bounding kind of clothing, I really like the indie patterns. The ones that, the historical costume patterns that you can get from the Big Four are really costumes. They're not historical sewing. And they don't use historical methods. They don't use historical piecing. They don't use historical anything, except for they vaguely have the same shapes. So definitely indie. My favorite sewing task. I love the sewing process. I absolutely love it. I love pinning. I love sitting at the machine and making it work. I love the trimming and the pressing and the feeling you get when it's all done. I like hand sewing. I don't like cutting out. That's the thing that I don't like the most, is the cutting out. Once I get past the cutting out stage, I'm good to go. That's the thing that always trips me up is, gosh, I got to cut this out before I can do anything else. My best advice to other sewers. Start with something simple, like a tote bag or a pillowcase using a stable woven fabric. That's my advice. And maybe it's because I've been teaching middle schoolers for a really long time. So we're talking about 11 to 14 years old. Most of them are absolute beginners. And always want them to feel successful. And I think there are just too many iffy things about starting with knits or even starting with garment sewing that you can very easily get frustrated and then you want to give up. So something relatively simple that's got mostly straight seams will give you that feeling of success and that desire to, hey, I'm going to do something else now. The other thing that I really think is important is practice. Practice, practice, practice. If you want to get better at basketball, you got to get out on the court. The same way with sewing. If you want to get better, you have to practice. And anytime there's a new technique in the project that you're doing, you need to make sure you understand what that thing is and make a sample, whether it's making a sample 5/8 of an inch or 1/2 of an inch seam to start with, or if it is how to do understitching or what it means to do a welt pocket and so on. Make practice ones. Don't try to make a buttonhole on the shirt that you have been working so hard on for the first buttonhole that you do. There's so many things that could possibly go wrong. So make yourself a buttonhole sandwich that has all the same fabrics as you're going to use in your strip that you're going to make the buttonholes in, and try it out. See what your machine does before you actually do it on your real thing that you're making. And the bonus question is, how did I find out about Friday Sews? Well, Holly Dennett's episode popped up in my YouTube feed. And I absolutely love hearing about other people's sewing experience. And she mentioned this hashtag, so I went over to Jen's and watched Jen's episode. And I've been watching some of the other ones as well. So I am glad to be here. And if you look at my channel, most of the things that I have on it are teaching videos for my students. But I'm going to be getting into some other kind of vloggy sort of things, and I will see you later. If you're interested in following me, subscribe, you know, the drill, the bell, the button, all of that stuff. Bye for now. So I realized yesterday when I was editing my Friday Sews video, I totally skipped one of the questions, and that was online or in-store fabric shopping. Like a lot of people that I have heard say, they like going in to the store and having that tactile, being able to touch everything experience. And that's me too. When I go into a fabric store, the first thing I do is I go to the bathroom and I wash my hands because I want to put my hands on everything while I'm in there. However, I live in pretty much of a fabric store desert in the St. Louis area. The main one we have is Joann's. There's another really nice fabric store, Jackman's, but it's way the heck on the other side of the county, and not a place that I don't go that direction very often. So if I'm going to go into a store, I have to go into a Joann's. And not all Joann's are created equal, I found out. The one that's closest to me that I have shopped at the most often is really... There's another one that's actually in the city of St. Louis, or pretty darn close to being in the city of St. Louis. It's near this place I like to go called the City Sewing Room, and which is not a fabric store. It's a place to go and sew or take lessons or whatever. And it's like so different. It's cleaner, more well organized. I don't think it's the people who work there because they're nice in both places, but it has a different kind of variety than the one that's closer to me. And I'm not quite sure why. So pretty much the St. Louis area is a fabric store desert. So I have started doing a lot more online shopping, especially with COVID and me not wanting to leave the house. Boy, you can get stuff there the next day if you can order it from Amazon. And even if you're not coming from Amazon, it doesn't take very long. Maybe a week or two, depending on where it's coming from. I've even had things come from China that were, only about a week and a half or 2 weeks. So anyway, I have started doing a lot more online shopping. I can find the things I want. I can't necessarily touch them ahead of time, but a lot of the companies, if you want, they will send you a little chunk, a sample, so you can see it and feel it. They're not all free, but if you're going to spend $50 on a natural fiber fabric, or maybe $100 on some wool that you're going to use for a coat, they'll send you a sample. And it's worth the $5 or whatever it is to get that sample. So I prefer shopping in the stores if I can, but there just isn't a whole lot of places to go a whole lot of places to go in the St. Louis area that have what I'm looking for. So I have started doing a lot more online shopping. In June, I'm going to New York City because my son lives there, and I can't wait to go to the garment district. It is one of the It is the top thing on my list of places to go in New York City. Yeah, you're going to think I'm crazy. There's all kinds of things to see. But the Garment District is number one. And I'm trying to figure out if I can't get all the fabric in my suitcase, I'm going to box it up and ship it home. So that's the last part of the last question, which ended up being quite a long answer to, where I shop for my stuff. Yeah, and I've answered all the questions now. So, see ya. Bye for now.